I think this is technically credits, but I'm gonna hold off on my thoughts until things go crazy here, just in case. All right, so I think we have credits here. Alrighty, so I believe we have Rogue Galaxy defeated. And, I don't know how I feel about this ending. It's so not as interesting, I guess. Maybe? I don't know. I think this game had a lot of potential to do a lot of interesting things. And it started off to do those interesting things in some ways, but it just never really followed suit, I guess. It had its own agenda. Like, for example, they mentioned the war a couple of times, but we never get involved in the war. I feel like that would have been an interesting avenue to go by. We fight in the war. I've said this before. We fight in the war. We, fight back one side or another. Or, maybe we don't play sides. We're pirates. We take advantage of it. But then we learn that one side is trying to find, the secret artifacts and things like that. And it's like, oh man, there's artifacts, we gotta beat them to it. They're gonna find this great treasure or whatever. And we go over there, we find out this crazy plot or whatever that leads to the opening of this ancient world, and we go there and we find out that there's this ancient evil, and now both sides are trying to also take advantage of that, and we gotta beat them back, and then the ancient evil takes control of both sides or whatever, and then we gotta beat back both. It just could have been a little bit more interesting from my perspective. Instead, we get a story of we'll call him a street rat who gets mistaken for a legendary bounty hunter guy, and they go on a ship to find the lost planet of Eden and run around doing errands for these random people that also just happen to be related to finding Eden. And then we find Eden, and then we find a big bad, and then we just kill the big bad. It was I guess it was just anticlimactic throughout the way. There wasn't much development in most regards. So I guess that was disappointing. And I guess that's pretty much my overall thoughts. I like the game. I don't think it's I don't know how I want to put it. I like the game, but I don't think it's great or fantastic or anything. I think it's just okay. Especially, we'll just go with it. It's okay. It's okay. I think. Let's see. Story, was it satisfying? No. As I just basically went through, I didn't really have hardly any interest in the story. It lost me a long time ago. Did it feel complete? I guess it feels complete. I think there could be a few more loose ends to go through. For example, Desert Claw. That archaeologist guy never actually gave us any answers ever, despite telling us he was going to give us answers. How was the pacing? I think the pacing was... I'm probably going to say the pacing wasn't that great, just because anytime we were going to do something that was going to progress the story, it felt like a side quest. Most of the main story sequences in this game are side questy, and that doesn't feel very good. And like at the very end of it, it's like, oh, it was the correct thing all along. Is whatever. So thoughts on the story. I'm super curious how long this Desert Claw impersonation is going to last because it's silly. And then I have under here, I honestly expected it to be revealed towards the end of the game, slightly surprised it happened around the 11-ish hour mark. I really thought they were going to ride with that a lot longer than they did. It seemed like an interesting aspect, especially because Jaster was actually living up-ish, kind of, sort of, to the Desert Claw name. Like he wasn't just this weak fighter or whatever. So that was interesting in and of itself. Being about 18 hours into the game, where we've come across our new purpose and mission, I gotta say I'm not all too interested in the story. I joined a pirate ship and all I've done is be an errand boy, disrupt people's cultures and beliefs, and get blamed for bombing the very building I'm inside of. Very little traction on doing meaningful and impactful things. When do I get to feel like a space pirate? When do I get to wrestle with the ideology of stealing to survive and also protecting the greater good? I feel like we didn't really get anything meaningful out of all this. I mean, sure, we saved the galaxy and we stopped a war, but we were never involved in the war, and we were never involved in this galactic struggle, really. Like, it just kind of, the war was just in the background, mentioned ever so slightly, and the galactic evil, was just revealed at the end. So it's just out of convenience, The narrative structure of the game doesn't quite mesh together all that well. No one arc really gets the time it needs to develop and produce something captivating. Details, both big and small, get glossed over or forgotten. Additionally, we engage in such random tasks that have no bearing on the story, but for some reason, they are the story.
What's up? You look kind of cheesed off.
Nah, I'm fine. Why are you still here? Not going home?
Of course I am. Just as soon as our last mission's over. Or, hadn't you heard?
Our last mission?
That's right.
Captain?
We're on our way to fight the battle of a lifetime on the all-new Mariglen.
Huh?
Oh, come on. You know what's important to us. We're gonna get it back.
Got it.
Are you gonna kidnap her? Are you gonna name yourself Gilder and kidnap the queen?
On that fateful day, Dorgangoa and his crew made off with their ultimate treasure. Historical records indicate it may have been the very last heist they ever pulled off as pirates.
Okay. Still don't like the ending. Where was I talking about? Oh yeah, the story quest. Like I had already mentioned that. I don't know if there's like save clear data or something like that where you can like new game plus or play afterwards. We're just gonna save right there. 44 hours, 50 minutes. Let's see. The scenes between Steve and the professor are extremely ill placed. It's nice to get information and backstory on your characters, but when you just place them where you go over a save point and all of a sudden you get this conversation between the professor and Mark/Steve, it's just kind of weird. I wish they figured out a better way to do that. And then on top of that, That mother and daughter who keep randomly showing up in places are completely random and feel unnecessary. That turns out to be Simon's wife and kid, but they really just have no place in this game whatsoever because there's no real involvement with them. It's, like the professor kind of makes sense because we rescue the professor, we talk to him, we interact with him through the factory and things like that. So like there's a little bit more involvement there. But the mother and daughter are just random characters that feel random and just have no place in this game, in my opinion. For the writing, on Vidan, we get introduced to Gale. He's a bad guy with the past. He gives us a lot of trouble. Within the next 2 or so hours, he's given a redemption arc spanning 8 minutes, and the game expects us to feel sorry for him. We barely get to know the guy, and yet he gets more screen time than many of the other characters. The attempt fell flat for me. I didn't like that, where like he gets his, I screwed up, I'm gonna make it up to everybody thing. It would have been really cool if that entire planet was revolved around Gale and how he's screwing us over, but we're slowly turning him, and eventually, we get to the end, and it's just like a super satisfying thing where he switches sides and he goes after that crime family or whatever. Just imagine the potential there that was just lost because of X reasons. It's a little disappointing. For gameplay mechanics and design, what gameplay elements stand out? Is someone who is inexperienced with menuing RPGs, I am extremely disinterested in Rogue Galaxy's implementation. These are as many things I could think of regarding the game, how the game handles its menus. Okay. I have quite a bit of stuff here. I don't like how much I need to live in the menus. It feels like I could spend hours inspecting them, analyzing them, combining items, searching for items, and sorting items. Many things seem convoluted and don't utilize the many buttons available on the PlayStation controller. So if they were going to let me back out here, I think I have written down later on, there's like 12 buttons on the PlayStation controller. And, there's a lot of functionality that's missing. I guess this will answer my New Game Plus question. Or post-game stuff here. But I'll get to the items here in a second. Oh, this is I guess this is right before the final battle. So, for example here, I guess it's just kind of obnoxious that we don't have very many options to go through. Like if I go further down, I have a love-hate relationship with the multiple uses items have. Equipment can be used or combined into more powerful options. Consumables can be used for their purpose or to expand revelations. It's a great use of a secondary economy, but it's burdened by the sheer volume of items. I have, 6 pages of items that fit, or 6 pages that fit 40 items each. Cycling through all this, how am I supposed to find things that I want to find? I can sort by items and I can sort by weapons, but when I want to search for, let's see, that branch, I gotta go through and look at every single page to see where that branch is, and I have to recognize the branch and find it. It's like, okay, I found the branch. Well, it would be great if I could instead arrange by other things, maybe revelation chart usable items, items that I have in my revelation chart that are revealed but haven't been inputted in yet. You know, there's so many available things, and display items first, display equipment first is so not it. There's also no ability to like lock in items in a specific spot, so you can have a special, you know, you can customize the page however you want. I realize this is a console game and it's a PS2 game at that, but it's just one of the additional issues that fall on how this game handles its menus, and it bugs me a lot. And then there's a lack of sorting and filter options. On top of that, items aren't sectioned off by use. I don't have a tab for weapons, armor, consumables, etc. They're all bundled together. The interesting thing here is you can go to equip a weapon or armor, and they are filtered into a special menu that you can select only those. So like it's clear here that they have the technology, they thought of this, where you have a special place where you can just section things off. It would have been really great to have one page of, let's just say 40 or 80 items, however you want to do it. Weapons, armor, consumables, revelation chart stuff, alchemy, whatever, factory. It would have just been amazing, you know? Absolutely amazing. The revelation tree offers no real way to properly survey options. You can't zoom out or cycle through open/insertable slots. Additionally, in slots where you can put something in them, despite there only being one item that will fit in there, the game sends you to the item menu, hovers over the item, and forces you to select it. This particular thing really started getting on my nerves, because it's like, it tells you the item that you want right here, you know, even without having to select it. But, you know, okay, you know, it's telling me what item I need. So I click it, and it even tells me, hey, this is the item. So by pressing X here, it should place the item, and I should be able to move on to wherever I want to go next. But instead, it goes into the menu for some reason. And that leads me to believe that you can place other items in those slots, but I haven't seen any evidence that the game allows you to do that. So I don't know what the purpose is of sending you back to the menu. Just put the item in there. And then as far as surveying the thing, you can't you can't zoom out on this. You have to cycle through this. And sure, you can use this analog stick and it goes, you know, much faster, but I want to see the big picture here. And I don't get the ability to do that, and it just would be nice if that was there. The frog is an item. Disregarding that there are hundreds of items that have no filter, this is one of the systems that needs its own menu. You select the frog menu, you select your character, and you have a top to bottom list of available items to combine. Beside them is their skill bar progress, and next to that is a short description of what it combines with. You select one, you select another, and bam, it combines. More or less the frog log, except you can actually combine and analyze there. Although, to be honest, analyze should be removed. I think analyze is fairly superfluous. I use that word, say that word properly. So we have the capabilities here to do great things, you know, but for some reason you can't combine here, and it doesn't make any sense to me. I think there's one character where I tested it out once, and it just, you know, it didn't work. And if they wanted to keep Analyze in that, you know, that's fine. Like, okay, you know, well, it honestly just doesn't really serve that much of a purpose if you were to do it like this. Once you get the item, it shows up on the list, and, you know, then you got to figure out, okay, what's the next item? Maybe Analyze can fit in there somewhere. I don't know. The frog is obnoxious. Get the frog out of here. Another dedicated menu that's missing is equipping. Man, is it obnoxious to select allies, select a character, select equipment, then select the item, then select change equipment, then choose the item. Again, when it comes to being convoluted, I go to the allies menu. I select my character, equipment, I select equipment, change equipment. It's obnoxious, you know? I have to go through all that just to change something. It's not, it doesn't need to be that crazy. Just change equipment. Change item, I don't know. Then we have the factory, which has separate menus for placing, moving, removing, and setting materials. A PlayStation 3 controller has 12 buttons, and I feel confident a PlayStation 2 controller has a number very, very close to that. Everything can be combined into one menu called Build. I think that's pretty self-explanatory. I'm not going to go into factory just to go over that. Watch my factory shenanigans, side parts, things. Alright, so that's all I got for the menuing stuff. The menuing is awful in this game. I absolutely despise it, and it's honestly discouraging me from playing any other games that have to do with menuing. I'm not 100% sure how the random encounter system works. There's no enemies on the map, but it doesn't seem like it's timed. Is it random? A checkpoint system? Only 4 hours of play so far when I wrote that. So I think it is random. There was one instance where I was in the battle completion screen, and then once that ended, I got into a random encounter like half a second later or something like that. So I think it is fairly random. I don't think it's a checkpoint or anything like that. So we can disregard that one, probably. I love that weapons change in appearance depending on what is equipped. This is one of my favorite things that RPGs can do, is actually model out or create sprites or what have you, or the different weapons that are available in the game. It's just really cool to see it displayed on your character. You look that much cooler, or that much more like a scrub, depending on what you're equipping. I'm also going to add, I don't think I have this in here, I really like that this game has costumes for the characters. I think they did a pretty good job with adding a decent variety, and some of them actually look pretty cool. One of them has jiggle physics for some reason, and I don't know why. Well, I know why, but you know, the costumes are cool, so I'm glad they added that. Let's see. The concept of the factory is not something I'm a fan of. You go around the world collecting blueprints, then you create the layout, use materials, essentially spending money, you know, parentheses, to create an item, and the items you create, you don't even get in your inventory. I think I debunked this. We do get samples, so you can disregard that. You get access to it in shops, but not immediately. You get it after some time, or so the game says. I didn't actually test this or anything like that. And not in every shop, only some shops. This is a poor way to reward me for using a system that is very time-consuming and cumbersome. Spending money, spend time, wait, then spend money to acquire the item. Crazy. Yeah, the factory thing is just absolutely ludicrous. You know, disregarding the menu thing, the amount of time you have to put into it to get your reward is a lot, you know? It's a big ask, and I personally haven't seen anything that's worth doing in the factory. I'm absolutely positive there is something, at least one thing that's worth doing, but I just haven't seen it. The Insectron was initially looking to be a huge slog, and then I found out a certain bug, which I had 2 of, could flip units out of the arena and instantly kill them. Suddenly it became a very entertaining puzzle that I looked forward to doing. Pretty self-explanatory on that regard. Once I was, when I was having to fight them, I was doing hardly any damage. Things just weren't going my way. but I found a way to kind of bypass the way the game wants you to play it. And suddenly it became an extremely enjoyable thing that I don't regret going through at all. And on top of that, I got farther than I ever imagined I would with just the scrub team that I got. So I'm pretty happy with Insectron the way I played it. I think the way that you're supposed to play it, there are a lot of issues with it. It's very time consuming. It's very expensive. And I didn't want to necessarily participate in that grind. But if you play it like I do, it was a lot of fun. You know, so there you go. Being able to fast travel to any save point is amazing. And I don't think I do have it right there. And I'll just combine it with save points, healing HP and MP is to full is amazing, and I continue to love it when games do that. I will also add that save points are plentiful, which is very appreciated. The way this game handles save points is quite phenomenal. Not only are there save points before every boss, but there are save points throughout the dungeons / environments, and they fully heal you. So like the ability to grind is something that doesn't necessarily cost you any currency. It just costs you the time in the game. And the grind in this game isn't particularly enjoyable. I don't know if there's like a codex in the game that tells you where to get certain items, what enemies drop what. That would have been a really nice thing, by the way. But just the fact that this game handles save points as well as it does is a really huge boon. Imagine if save points didn't heal you at all. This game would be pretty rough. It would be pretty rough. Not only on consumables, because you can only carry a certain amount of consumables, but the shops in dungeons, which I don't actually have in here, but shops in dungeons is a great idea. But the shops aren't plentiful either. So there's that. And then imagine if you can't fast travel to save points. Like things just kind of cascade on each other of an awful experience. So how they handled save points in this game drastically improved my experience in the game and made me enjoy it a lot more than I did. For combat, not a fan of the action gauge. In an action RPG, I feel like one of the worst things you can do is bring in a system that prevents me from engaging in the action. I'm puzzled by the action gauge, and when I say action gauge, it's after you attack a certain number of times, you have to wait for this bar to fill before you can attack again or use abilities. But if you block, you get it, back immediately. It's just a very questionable mechanic in a game that you want to be attacking as much as possible, and you want to guard when it's most opportune. It just feels weird to kind of interrupt that flow, I guess. For dungeons, the dungeons can be a little tedious, not necessarily because they have so much space in them or because they consist of many parts, but because of the inability to move quickly. There is no run button. The fast travel mechanic helps the issue, but doesn't remove it. And we've encountered this, and I've mentioned this before. It's just you walk pretty slow in this game, and the space in every dungeon is quite large. So having the ability to move faster would help out a lot. I would appreciate something like that. Let's see. Cardinal Sins Backup Party earns less experience. I believe we calculated this out to be 66%. I'm having a little bit of doubts that it is actually 66%, because that doesn't quite make a whole lot of sense in the grand scheme of things. Jaster's level 57, and he's been in the party 99% of the game. Just, you know, multiple instances where he's not, but those are few and far between. So he's level 57. Zegram, I never used after basically I wasn't required to use him. And he's 54. And same with Simon, actually. I also never used him after I wasn't required to use him. So somehow they're only 3 levels lower than the highest level character. There might be some experience shenanigans in this game, but whatever the case, backup party members should receive full experience and dead stop right there. Forcing the player to use certain party members. There's a Zegram solo fight, which was awful. Thank goodness that I didn't have to beat that fight, because holy freaking cow, I would still be on that fight probably. But then this whole ending sequence where we have to use every individual character to defeat certain dudes. I mean, boss rushes in of itself are not all that enjoyable. A boss rush where I'm sure someone in chat could confirm or deny, I don't know. But if you die on that boss rush, I'm fairly confident that you have to do the whole thing all over again. There's no way you're going to use every character in this game. There's 5 party members that have to sit on the bench. If you're not equipping them, like Crayson said, he sold all of his equipment. Doing that final boss sequence with in a situation like his is awful. Thankfully for me, I was already picking up on Kasala having to do something solo. I thought she would, you know, one-on-one final battle kind of thing. So I was working on her Revelation page, and, you know, I bought some items for her here and there. Luckily for Digo, I was using him for a decent chunk of time before I decided to swap off, so he was in a decent spot. Then there's Steve and Lilica, who I swapped into my final party. So they were already set. So basically, Simon, Zegram, and Jupus were the only characters where I was slacking quite a bit. And thankfully, that shop, I decided to buy that equipment for Jupus, or I was going to buy equipment for everybody if they had it, just in case, because once again, you know, I was, you know, picking up on a little radar there, and unfortunately only had it for Jupus, and I think like a gun for Digo. But that stuff is just not fun, and I never want to see games do that ever again, but games will continue to do that, and this is a pretty older game, so, you know, there you go. That's it for Cardinal Sins. For sound, or for the music, I think some of the music tracks in this game were pretty solid. I don't have any overwhelming issues with the music. Yeah, I think the music's pretty solid. For voice acting, imagine my surprise when I find out the entire main story is fully voice acted. I appreciate it a lot. I always go around saying, you know, if you're gonna put voice acting in, or if you're gonna put voice acting in your game, it needs to be minimum the main story of the game. For me, it's that or nothing. I hate it when you give me a voice acted line and then 5 unvoiced lines and then a voice acted line again. That stuff gets on my nerves. So it's really refreshing to come across a game where I don't encounter that and I just get voice acting all the way through. I mean, arguably this game is fully voiced. The only thing that's not voiced is the random people, which is totally fine. So kudos for this game for doing that. I greatly appreciate it. Also, I didn't have any issues with the voice acting as a whole. Sure, some characters were better than others, but I've certainly heard less passable things than this. It was more than acceptable for me. I would arguably say the voice acting is actually pretty good. We get really weird voice actors like Jupus, who bring in like I want to say like I don't want to say style, but I want to say like flair to their characters. It's not a traditional way of voice acting a character, and I appreciate those type of characters. You know, they're a little annoying and things like that, but it's cool to get a character that just doesn't talk normally. So I like that. For graphics, I enjoyed the art style. I believe a viewer mentioned that it has a unique thing going for it, and I agree. I haven't seen many, if any, games that approach their art direction in this way. I like the art in this game, and in fact, I don't think I have it written here. This game has a crap ton of pre-rendered cutscenes, which is really, really cool. More pre-rendered cutscenes than I've ever seen in a console RPG, off the top of my head anyways. So that's really, really cool. I will note that it was unfortunate to get some graphical issues playing this on the PS4. In cutscenes, you can see a seam where two pieces of the screen are supposed to connect. This occurs across the entire screen and can be distracting. I read it's a rendering issue with the PS4. So if you look really, really close, I mean, you don't have to look that close, but if you look in the cutscenes, like, you see these vertical seams that just kind of they look like blinds basically, and it kind of interrupts things, like when characters move, you know, like the black outlines just kind of get disrupted and things like that. Really unfortunate thing that I never was expecting with this, but I wish it wasn't there, obviously. Replay value, I don't think this game has any replay value after jumping in over here. It seems like you can do everything you want to do, as far as I'm aware, in your first playthrough, so do that. And if the developer is watching, I think he delivered a solid title here. You know, I don't regret playing it whatsoever. I think there's a lot of changes that need to be made for it to be a more enjoyable game for me personally. I would be interested in a sequel, and I would probably play the sequel even if the menuing wasn't changed or fixed or iterated on. But I would probably just complain about it more. You know, we don't want me complaining about games, so yeah, I would say overall I enjoyed the game, but I wouldn't consider it to be anywhere close to like a favorite. It was okay. So yeah, that's gonna wrap it up for me for today. It's 1 o'clock, 4.5 hour stream, dropped 7,200 frames, and yeah, yeah, that'll end it for the thoughts. I'll add my other stuff after this. So yeah.